Hey guys, so today I'm bringing you my Skeletal Wyvern guide. This has been repeatedly asked of me because I guess Skeletal Wyverns are a tough creature to kill. They are actually quite difficult if you don't know how to kill them. They're quite different to any other creature in RuneScape in the fact that they have a special ice attack, which is similar to Dragon Breath but different. And a lot of players don't actually know the best way to kill them, so I'm going to bring you that information in this guide. Now, I haven't killed a lot of these, but I figured out how to kill them effectively with many setups. So first, I'm just going to give you some general information on the Skeletal Wyverns. They're combat level 198, which means they don't drop too many effigies, but they are decent, especially since they're nerfed. They're not so good, but they're a decent dropper. The life points is 2,000, which means they are a decent Slayer XP per kill. The Slayer requirement is 72, which is relatively high. And then its attacks. It has range, melee, and ice breath. Now, range, melee it'll only do if you stand in melee distance, and it will not walk towards you if you attack it from a distance, so that you can utilize that factor in the range setup, which I'll show you later. The range attack will if you stand in melee distance, it'll still use it as well as its melee attack, just randomly. And it's ice breath. Now it'll always use this with up to a range of 6 squares. Now the ice breath, what's special about the ice breath is very similar to like the dragon fire. However, you cannot use an anti-poison. You cannot use an anti-fire potion to evade it. So you can't use a super anti-fire and negate all damage from it. Now the problem with this ice breath is you must use a shield. So you must use one of the elemental shields. Now anti-fire shield does not work. So you must use an elemental shield, such as the mind shield, the body shield, the cosmic shield, any of those, which can be quite a nuisance to make. And then the other shield you can use is a dragon fire shield. This works because I assume it's because the Skeletal Wyverns do drop the Visage. I guess that is why it works when you attach that to the anti-dragon shield. And the DFS is obviously the best choice because it has like the strength bonus, etc. And you must use this shield. If not, it has a massive max hit. If you do not use this shield, the Skeletal Wyvern can easily hit up to 500 plus. However, the majority of the time it'll be lower than that, below 400 and below 300, and most of the time on average. Obviously it still has a chance of randomly hitting over 500, and this could deal a lot of damage to you very quickly. But one of the steps I will be showing you later will not be using a shield, so you must know exactly how to evade it and how to make sure you're healing enough through it so that you don't take too much damage. So there's many familiars that are useful for killing the Skeletal Wyverns, and the first one I'm going to mention is the Spirit Unicorn. Now the Skeletal Wyverns drop Wyvern Bones, which are worth a decent amount of money, about 7k plus, and these are definitely worth picking up if you want to kill these for money. Now they're not the best money per hour, however they are quite fun to kill. They're a bit different, and it's an alternative to Frost Dragons. Well, it's not as fast, but it's still decent, and especially if you're doing this on a Slayer task, a Slayer helmet can be used in any of the gear setups I'll show you later. Obviously it's an alternative because it's quite an obvious alternative if you're on a Slayer task. Now, the summoning level of the Spirit Unicorn is 88, and the scroll is Healing Aura. This is what the advantage of the Spirit Unicorn, of the Unicorn Stallion, is that it uses the Healing Aura. Now, this heals you up to 15% of your life points. I think it heals 140 if you're 99 HP, and the length is 54 minutes, which is enough time to do one trip, so you won't need to bring a spare. And the only problem is you do not have a way of picking up your bones. The only infinite space you have with a unicorn is your inventory. You don't have a yak or a beast of burden to put your bones into, and you don't have anything to bank them with, which is the disadvantage of this, and that is why I do not recommend it. However, it can be used if you're not picking up the bones. It is the perfect familiar. The next familiar for a lower Slayer level is the War Tortoise. This only requires level 67 summoning, and the great advantage of this, it's a beast of burden and can hold 18 items. This is great to pick up your bones and put it into the tortoise, and once you fill up your tortoise and invent, you can bank and go back and carry on like that. This is a great way to bank the bones, and it's thoroughly worth doing for the simple fact that the bones are worth bank. Now, the great thing with the tortoise as well, you can put food in it, so it replaces the healing. You replace the healing act of the unicorn with the fact that you're going to have food instead, like sharks or rocktails, and you can eat the sharks straight from the tortoise. The scroll is called Testudio and is not very useful. What it does is boost your defense, but it's not going to be useful here, and it's pretty much useful nowhere. And it lasts for 43 minutes. So depending if you can fill a tortoise of 18 bones and you invent within 43, if you can't do that within 43 minutes, you'll have to bring a spare. But I imagine you should be able to do that unless you're doing something greatly wrong. The next familiar, and probably the best familiar if you were banking the bones, You want to use the unicorn if you're not picking up the ones, but if you are, this is the one you want. The great thing about the pack, it holds 30 items, and it has the best scroll ever. Well, I say that, that's a biased opinion. It is really useful, but it does require level 96 summoning, which is pretty high. But what the scroll does, you use it, you click on an item in the inventory, and it sends it to the bank. So that is why it's perfect for picking up bones, because you pick it up, send it to the bank, move on to the next wyvern. Easy as that. You don't need any space. It lasts 58 minutes, which is a long time. But the fact that it holds 30 items is useful because you can take food, which will replace the healing act of the unicorn stallion. So I hope from this, using your summoning level and the advantages of each, you can pick which familiar you want, and you can use them each with any of the setups I'm going to show you later in this video. So let's move on to the first setup now that I'm going to show you. Right guys, so for the first setup, and probably the one I recommend most for you guys, is either this one or the one I'll be showing you after, which is very, very similar. So the first setup is this. Now the weapon you'll be using is Goliath gloves. As I've said, skeletal wyverns are weak to crush, so a rapier or a CLS isn't too good for this. Now a CLS would be, you can use slash and it's not too bad, but this is going to be better with the Goliath gloves crush, because when you if you punch, kick or block, it's all crush. So I'm going to be kicking because that's better, even though you punch with Goliath gloves, but yeah. And then since I've mentioned all the familiars you can use, now I'm going to be using the yak setup because I want to bank the bones. So in your yak, as I said, you just want to have your sharks. Obviously you can use rocktails, but they're a bit too expensive for what they're worth. And then you want in your gear, you pretty much want to use proselyte for your prayer bonus. For your helm, obviously if you haven't got a slayer helm, or if it's not a slayer task, you want to use a dwarven helmet, because this, if I show you the stats of this thing, it has the best crush bonus for a helm. +6, so that's why it's so good. Reverence, if you've got it for keeping the extra prayer. Then you want to have your Soul Wars cape for your extra prayer bonus. Fury, just general gear. Obviously you can upgrade them to steadfast, but this is a great setup I'd like to use. An onyx ring obviously can be downgraded to just any berserker ring or any other ring you normally use. So you just want to teleport to a fairy ring, that's the quickest access. So having this ring in your inventory here is great. Depending how long you want to stay there is how long you want to take, how many pots you want to take. The prayer renewals will really help you stay a lot longer because they'll slow your prayer drain by an awful lot. So you just tally to a fairy ring, and you want to tally to Mud Skipper Point, which is AIQ and is at the top of my travel log. I don't know if it'll be at the top of yours, but I never even tally here and it's there. So you'll tally to here, which is just slightly south of the cave. Now everyone knows where this cave is, you should know where the cave is. However, I'm not sure people know where the skeletal wyverns are. So you just want to run north and run round until you get to this cave. It's on the top of a little cliff, which makes it annoying to get to because you've got to run right round instead of run straight from the south. And you'll enter here right next to the muggers. You just want to run north past the pirates and then run east. And there's a little entrance to the wyverns that you've probably seen as a noob and thought, not going in there, it's scary. But yeah, it's not scary. You should be fine in this gear. And for your quick prayers, I'm assuming if you're in this gear, you're probably going to be on prayers. And you want to pray range, you want to have piety on, and you want to have, if you want to be safe, you want to put protect item on. But they're the only two prayers that you really need. For the later setups I will change to curses because soul split will help an awful lot. So as you can see, the skeletal wyverns are in here. You can see them all walking around, and for this setup I'm not using a cannon because there's not really too much need. So you just want to pot up. If you're on curses, you use Berserker Prayer. Now I'm not saying you can't use curses, you can obviously upgrade any gear you want, and you can use a cannon in this gear. So it says the dangerous, it says, and then you'll walk in. Now these can freeze you, and they can do other things to you. They're quite dangerous creatures. As you can see, it casts its icy breath there, and there's nothing you can do about it. Even if you take anti-fire potions, it does not help. You've got to take the damage that the DFS only absorbs, which is why you've got a full packet of food. Obviously, if you use a unicorn, this will heal anything you need to be healed if you're using the setup. Your free range, because its other attack is a ranged attack. The only damage you should be taking, I don't know if it uses it does use melee, and you will be you'll be healing everything with the unicorn. However, you can't bang the bones. But as he's just seen, it's frozen me with its special attack, and that is very annoying and plays a big part in the later setups. So as you can see, Wyvern Bones, you want to pick them up, bank them, and move on to the next one as quick as you can, picking up any drops. So I just picked up the 60 pure essence, and obviously these are actually good. These are actually good Crimson Charms. So if you want charms, they are decent. However, obviously they're not good at camp for charms. They're just decent while you're here, and they drop 2 charms per drop. So this is simply how you do it with this setup, and you'll pot up when you need to pot up. And I recommend probably about 120 stats to do that. But it's up to you really. It depends how long you want to stay here. That's the only variable factor. And this is simple as this. Obviously you can substitute some prayer potions and possibly an extreme set to put a cannon in your invent, and your cannon, as I'll show you exactly where it's set up in the later setups, because that is when you're more prominently going to use a cannon. So as you can see, just bank the bones because they do add up to a decent amount, unless you've got one of the lower familiars. Right, so I'm outside the cave again with the next setup of gear. Now this is very similar. I've just exchanged basically prayer saving gear for attacking gear. So I've switched the proselyte for bandos, and I've switched the cape for like a fire cape, cowl, or whatever your best cape is. The cape you'd normally wear for slayer tasks. And then again, just pack yak full of sharks, invent setup, but this time I've brought a cannon, and I'm going to show you where to set up the cannon. And this time I'm on curses. Again, your prayers want to be pre-range. You're going to want Berserker prayer on this time so that you can save time on your pots draining. And then you just want to activate your prayers, enter the cave, do the usual message, and run round. Now the best spot for the cannon is around here, and you want to set it up about here. I haven't got too many cannonballs, but obviously if you're going to do this for longer you would need more. So just set it up and attack. You want to pot up as usual and start attacking. You probably want to get a couple of sharks out your pack yak, but don't get them until you need it. You want to have at least an invent space so you can bang your bones if you're on a pack yak. I will show you the next setup, and I'll be using a different familiar so I can demonstrate how to use the other ones, so I don't just use a pack yak all the time. Because obviously there's obviously different ways you can do these. You can obviously mix up between each. Why did I not set the cannon going? You can obviously mix up between each style that you're using. Obviously you can like use a unicorn with the first setup. You can use a pack yak with the range setup that I'm showing you later. It's all up to you really. You can do what as long as you've just upgrade whatever parts you can. Because obviously I know not everyone is going to pick the exact same gear setup between each. But the pack yak is obviously the best familiar to use because of the fact you can bank the bones. And I'm going to get a couple of sharks out because I'm starting to run low. But obviously you're going to use prayer a lot faster in this setup in bandos, so it's obviously that's the disadvantage. However, you'll be getting faster kills because you've got the better attack bonuses. As you can see, I'm taking quite a lot of damage. Didn't take this much last time. And the bones is what's going to make you the money here. They do have a few drops like granite legs and stuff, but they're not worth much anymore. They used to be a decent amount, but now they're just worthless. So it's just a complete waste of time to get them. So as you can see, the Goliath gloves hit really well, and you pretty much never hit zeros. You want to keep your cannon filled up, and you want to keep banking the bones because they're worth a lot now. The reason they've gone up so much is because of the fact that the elite task rewards or any of the Mauritania task rewards, you can exchange bones for bone meal, which is basically speeding up the process of making prayer and super prayers, because Wyvern Bones is what makes them. So hence, what is it, 496? And so hence, before people didn't really make them because it's such a long process, but now you can just buy some and exchange them each day, and that is why a lot of people are doing it, because it's worth it now. It doesn't take too long. And that's probably a beneficial, the reason that Skeletal Wyvern want me. So you've got to get the ones near your cannon. It's a massive time saver. As you can see, the cannon does a lot of damage each round, and the closer, generally if it's like close to the cannon, it's going to do a lot more damage. As you can see, it's actually hitting it quite a few times, the cannon right now, pretty much on every rotation because it's right underneath it. So the big monsters like this do get hit by a lot by the cannon. So as you can see, it's getting done a lot of damage. And it's simple as this: just eat your food when you have to, and bank your bones. Flicking Soul Split is very useful with this if you're on cursors, and it's going to save you a lot of time. So it's really worth doing because it's going to save you a lot of sharks, and you don't want to be using your sharks too fast. As you can see, I've used quite a few already. I used like 4, and I haven't got that far into the trip, and I have been quite unlucky with getting hit there though. So I'm going to move on to the next setup now. Now this setup is the most difficult setup of all the setups, but it is by far the fastest. This is because you'll be using the Chaotic Maul over your Goliath gloves. Now the reason this is so dangerous is because you haven't got a shield, and as you know, for Skeletal Wyverns you must wear a Dragonfire shield or any of the elemental shields from the Elemental Workshop quests to block the damage. However, I'm only going to have it in my inventory. And this setup you pretty much require overloads because they will help a lot. And one thing you should bring in extra is the Excalibur. Now you can also bring this on other setups, and for some reason it didn't bank my prayer potion. Oh, what? Jagex, man. So ridiculous. There we go, Excalibur. Now obviously you can bring this on any setup, however it's really needed on this one. Obviously it will help on the other setups, and you can take any special attack weapon you want, that's up to you. So the Excalibur is really helpful on this one because it'll heal the damage of your overload after your overload, and you really need all the HP you can get because you're trying to survive without using these brews too quickly because you want to be able to last, and you're going to be using the Soul Split prayer. So for this setup you pretty much require overloads. You don't require overloads, you can do it with extremes if you wish, or supers if you can manage it, and then Soul Split. You're going to be having to do a massive DPS on this one because Soul Split is your main source of survival, and you're not going to last as long per trip, but you're going to get a huge amount of kills. However, with a unicorn, you're not going to be able to bank the bones. So I said I'm going to use the unicorn because I just want to demonstrate using that instead. And obviously the pack yak is the best setup, and you just take a yak full of food, and with the yak full of food, you could probably sacrifice the brews because you would have the infinite eating food option. However, with a unicorn, you're limited to how much you can use it. If you haven't got Accomplishing Escape, you can take a Spirit Keep in your invent to switch when you heal, and then you'll get more heals with your unicorn. So as you can see, I'm now at the Skeletal Wyvern entrance, and for your prayers in this setup, you want to have Soul Split and Turmoil on. If you haven't got Soul Split, you cannot use this setup because it's very, very important. Now, the reason you have your DFS in your inventory or any of the elemental shields is so that you can wield it when you're not attacking while you're not attacking a Wyvern. The reason you do this is because your main source of healing is Soul Split. You'll see the massive hits I do with Cult Maul, and this setup is much easier on a Slayer task because you'll have a Slayer helmet for the extra damage, which is going to help an awful lot. So the reason you wear this is so that you don't get wrecked when you're not attacking, and so you want to enter. Don't bother with your the message. You don't want to bother with your quick prayers yet until you've got your cannon set up. The cannon is going to help you a lot in this setup because it's going to speed up your kills, and you really want to get a massive kills per hour for this setup. So set up your cannon. Make sure you got your DFS on because you don't want to be taking massive damage when you're not ready, and set it up. You want to overload, prayer renewal, and you want to straight away enhance Excalibur, and then you want to put your quick prayers on and start attacking. As you can see, it does massive damage on you, and this is a high risk of death using this. As you can see, it's just froze me, and when you froze, you probably want to put your DFS on so that you don't take the damage, and you want to just switch back to your maul when you're unfrozen ready to attack. As you can see, you hit pretty hard, and it doesn't do its special too often. So as you can see, a 500 heals quite a bit, and I'm pretty much full HP. You want to use your unicorn when you can, and you want to be attacking the next Wyvern straight away, because you do not want to be wasting time in between. Now, if you're picking up bones with a pack yak, when you pick up the bones, you want to switch to your DFS and pick up the bones like this. So as you can see, I'm not going to take much damage because I've got a DFS on, and then you want to get back to the Wyvern. And then, oh wow, I just did 5, and you want to attack it, and then switch to your maul. So, I'm right next to the bones, so I'm going to just pick them up fast, and move around to the next one. You don't have to switch to DFS, because this will waste some time, but you can, as long as you're not under a threat from a Wyvern for too long, while you're picking up the bones. But if you're going to be under threat for a while, you want to have your DFS on. So as you can see, I'm attacking it straight away, so that I don't take the damage. So as you can see, I'm still full HP, I'm not really taking much damage, and the unicorn will really help for healing on this one. So as you can see, it's frozen me, so it's worth switching to the DFS, because I'm not attacking, and the cannon's actually going to kill it anyway. Switch back to my maul and attack. The freezing is the most annoying thing about killing these, because it will really help to do damage on you, and it's not pleasant whatsoever. It gets very annoying at times. So in this setup, you're probably not going to be able to bank bones or really pick them up because you have got a unicorn. However, if you've got a yak, you can pick them up all you wish. So now I'm frozen miles away from the wyvern, so I definitely need to get my DFS on now. And it's even worth switching to prey range if you can. And now I'm ready to go back to it, so I want to switch back to soul split and attack it with them all. As you can see, this is very dangerous because you've not got the DFS on a lot of the time, and it can hit very high. And I just hit 623. Imagine this on Slayer. You will hit incredible hits, and you can hit over 700, which is very, very helpful, especially when you've got the 8.5 strength from the top Carcal or the comp cape, and that's a 677 off Slayer right there. You can see how much damage, how much HP you can heal with Soul Split, and you can see the massive increase in the rate that I can kill the monsters. So it's just hit 352 on me, so you can see how dangerous it is. Then a 181 straight after. I'm taking a lot of damage, and that's why the soul split is needed, and the unicorn really helps. Or if you haven't got a unicorn, you've obviously got rocktails or sharks and your yak anyway to make up for it. And obviously you got your brews. Now the only reason you bring brews is for emergencies. So as you can see, I just got wrecked. I'm going to switch, and I just died. So you can see easily how much you can die. But that's because I was distracted talking to you guys, and as you see, I was about to drink a brew. So that is when you need to drink a brew, when you're in a very dangerous situation, as I just showed you. You can see how easily it is to die. And I was only dying because I only died there because I was commentating, but that can happen to anyone. So I've looted my grave and I'm back at the wyverns now, and so I'm setting up my cannon. I've just re-overloaded and I'm going to start killing them again. So back to soul split and chaotic maul. So as I've just said, the setup is very dangerous, and you really want to be careful while doing this. You want to keep your HP at least above 400 because it can easily one hit you from that distance. And as I failed to do there, you want to brew in emergencies at a very decent rate. You want to be there ready to click. But I was like guiding you through what I was doing as I was doing it, so I was a bit slow. So as you can see, like, it is very quick. You can see the massive hits. Now on Slayer this is even faster, and you can imagine the rate that you can do a task is pretty quick. However, it's not too efficient of a Slayer task to do, and the main reason I'd recommend doing this is for money. Now obviously the other familiar, other than a yak that's useful for banking bones, is obviously to take a tortoise, because any other beast of burden, you can take the food in it and you can put the bones straight back in it after you've picked them up and ate the food from it, and you can use that to do runs to the bank and to keep a lot of bones per invent. And obviously with a unicorn, it's a healing familiar, it can't store items, so you can only take bones that you can fit into your inventory. So this is why a unicorn is not recommended too much for healing. And the next setup is going to be the range setup, and I'll take a tortoise on that and explain kind of what to do with that. So as you say, I'm full HP now. I'm doing perfectly fine, as long as you're quicker attacking the next one, because you don't want to be at a distance, because it's much more likely to cast its freeze attack. You always want to be ready to put your DFS on, especially when you're low HP as well, because if you're low HP and you need to brew, you kind of just want to safe up with your DFS and make sure you're not going to get dealt a massive combo while you're using it. As I did switch to DFS, just I wasn't quick enough. So just simply kill them like this. Feeling like we can when we need it. Oh wow, and then get Ruby. So now I'm going to go into the range setup, which is a different setup and is recommended for lower levels, and as long as but you must have a high range level when doing that setup. So for the alternative ranging setup, which is going to be good to use as a low level, and basically as someone who hasn't got high melee stats but has a decent range level, you basically want a tortoise if that's your best familiar, or obviously you can use the other familiars as I've mentioned, but a tortoise is probably going to be the one you can use. And you just want to have about 4 sharks or 4 rocktails in your tortoise. You don't want to fill it up too much because you'll pretty much use no food. And you invent a few more food so that you can use them straight away. An extreme or regular ranging potions, 2 of them should do. It obviously depends how long you want to stay, and then 2 prayer renewals. Obviously you're going to fill up your tortoise with the bones and then bank, so you can't stay too long. And then you just want enough prayer pots to last. As for the gear, you pretty much want your best ranging gear. Void is very good because of the fact that you will not need any defense, because having defense is not going to make a difference. So Void is perfect because it can do insane amount of damage. However, other than Void, you can obviously just use Dragonhide, any ranging gear, Carol's, Armadillo, and you can even stretch to Pernix if you have Pernix, but more than likely you'll have a decent, you'd rather use one of the faster melee setups if you have Pernix. The other gear is just generally you pretty much need a chaotic crossbow, otherwise the rune crossbow will very slow damage, but a rune crossbow will work. You want diamond bolts because they're the most effective. You want your elemental shield, body shield, any of them shields, or your DFS. And other than that, you just want your general range stuff like swift gloves or barrows gloves, Gleaven boots, a ranger, a snakeskin, and then just any ring that is very good for ranging, so archer's ring or an onyx ring, and then a fury, Ava's alerter, or any Ava's device, and then you just want your aura that you regularly have. And I've already explained the invent, so I'm going to get to Skeletal Wyverns and then explain the method. Right, so I'm at Wyverns. So for your quick prayers, you want your best range boost prayer. So Rigor if you've unlocked it from the Dungeoneering school, and then Eagle Eye if you haven't. You also want pre-range to be activated. So if you're pure range without prayer, then you can't do this, and there's IRC going as usual. And before you go in, you just want to drink your range potion, drink your prayer renewal, get your prayers on, and go in. Now, the reason you don't need much food is for the simple fact that the Wyvern only attacks with range and it's icy attack from a distance. Now, however, the other thing is the range of your range attack, if you get what I mean, is how many squares you can go, is 7. So I'm guessing I'm 7 now. If you're not, you can work it out because it'll be doing an attack on you, and you'll know. And it's the Wyvern's ice attack is 6 squares. So hence the only damage it can do to you is range, and since you're offering range, it can't do damage to you. So as you can see, this method's pretty slow. It's got a pretty high range defense, so you hit quite a few zeros, and range is also quite slow and doesn't have a high max hit. However, this kill is actually gone pretty well, but then you've got to take into account the fact I am 99 range, so I have a distinct advantage. Most people that do this method will not have 99 range. So you want to be picking up the bones. Now the reason you have your tortoise is so that you can put the bones in the tortoise, just use it on your tortoise, and there you go. And for some reason they glitched, and now that Wyvern's attacking me. But so as I mentioned, the icy attack, if you go close enough, it's now in distance that I can use its ice attack. So as you can see, my DFS just absorbed the hit, and now I'm frozen, which can easily happen, and that's why you really want to avoid that. But that's when you know you're too close to it, and you can walk back when you're frozen anyway. Frozen and can't move, frozen and can't move, frozen and can't move. Come on. There you go. And then you need to move back. Just keep out a distance. The reason you have a few food is in case you do get damaged by that. So once you get to the distance that if you walk one step the Wyvern moves, that's when you know you're at the 7th square, because it will move when you go to an 8th square towards your 1 space. So that's the distance you want to get to it, and then you won't be able to be damaged, but you have the food as backup just in case you get hit. It's quite easy to just possibly like just remove your DFS or something stupid by accident and take a few damage. So this is one way we'll be collecting the bones, and this is why I'd recommend a tortoise over a unicorn, because you can take food still and have enough food. Obviously it costs money compared to scrolls, but you will be banking the bones, which are worth about 10k each plus, I think, at the minute. However, when you watch this guide, it may not be, maybe cheaper, maybe even more. So this is the easiest setup by distance, and is really the one I recommend for the lower levels if you're not capable of doing the melee method. This is the easiest. You'll take less damage. It's very simple to do. However, obviously you will be slower, because you can see the time it takes to kill one is a lot longer than when I did it with like the same ball. You can see the difference between the speed of that and the speed of this. Obviously you can use a cannon with this method, so you can just set up your cannon over there and range as usual, and it'd be exactly the same as the other one for the cannon location, etc. And obviously you can use a unicorn if you wish for this method, if you're doing it for a slay test and not bothered about the bones, or you can even use a pack yak if you do have a pack yak and want to range. Obviously it's up to you. The methods are very variable, so you can do low gear with cannon and pack yak and overloads, and then you can also do like high gear but use this tortoise method, etc. So it's really up to you. It depends on your wealth, depends on your stats, and all the other stuff that usually matters. So I hope this has helped you guys and taught you all the methods that you need to know, and taught you like the benefits of each method, and demonstrated the tactic of each method, and the fact that Goliath gloves are a crush weapon and can be used while wielding a shield is very, very powerful. Before Goliath gloves, Wyverns were very difficult to do at a lower level because there's not really any crush weapons that are one-handed and powerful. However, the Goliath gloves are similar to a whip in DPS and are a crush weapon, so that's why they are so perfect to use. So I hope you found this helpful and very useful, because a lot of people were asking for the Skeletal Wyvern guide. I hope this has taught you a lot more about them and how to kill them. So please thumbs up if you did enjoy the guide and found it helpful, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video.